Great to see you all. There are some of them here that I haven't seen in a while, faces, and it's a pleasure to see them. My name's Helen. I'm an alcoholic. Um, it says how it was, what happened, and what it's like now. Basically, it doesn't take me long to say how it was. I was an abusive, nasty, irresponsible, uncaring drunk. I didn't start drinking until I was 32 years old. I had a list of reasons why. Number one, a divorce with 4 children to raise, and I had just after that started drinking. Didn't take me long. Didn't take me long. Um, I was barred from the finest places in the state. I often say that that was years and years and years ago, but venture to say if I walked in there right now and there was somebody that remembered, they'd say, she's not allowed in here. But anyway, I wasn't really bragging about that when I tell you all. What I'm trying to say to you is that behavior for me was dictated by my use of alcohol. It had nothing to do whatsoever with what I was taught, how I was raised, what kind of a parents I had, or anything else. It had to do with my absolute ignoring the fact that I could not drink. And I continued covering up. Don't come up to me and give me any advice. I don't want to hear it. I'm not ready. I have it under control. Now, I joined AA. It was miserable. My second husband I married for spite because he was the husband of the woman that took my husband away from me. I never laid eyes on him before in my life. He came back from Germany. I thought I'll get Jake to marry me. Sure enough, went back to Germany, stayed drunk almost the entire time, and was supposed to be there for 3 years, and a little over a year and a half, I was back here in Dover. So, um, and there I really became a full fledged, excused drunk. And you couldn't find a meaner person in this world. I came back. I've been married 4 times. The first time was real. I was in love. I had 4 children. And I met him when I was 14. We had a great marriage until this lady, this woman, I can't call her lady, this woman decided that she was going to take him away from me, and she knew how to do it. And by the way, I think women know how to do it. Okay? So she was full-fledged, ready to do her duty, and she did. And my third husband was the laziest human being I've ever laid eyes on in my life. I used to say, Mac, you're too lazy to get out of your own way. To which he was offended, and I didn't really care. I've been married to this husband for over 32 years. No, it's been longer than that. I can't, 42 years, I guess. Anyway, I'm too old to get a divorce and get married again. Oh my God. That would be listed on my history as not a very good point. Anyway, I came back from Germany and I drank heavily. I had a terrible reputation. I got arrested for drunk driving. I was abusive to the state police. They dragged me down to Dover police station, to which they took a film, and the film said, "What are you doing?" I went out. I worked for lawyers. I went out to Roy. I said, "I'm going to plead not guilty." He said, "I don't think so." Have you seen the film? I said, "What film?" He said, "The film they took of you the whole time you were in there, where you're pointing at this young man who's on the camera and you're saying, 'What the hell is he doing?'" That film. Anyway, proceed onward. I knew I needed help, so I came in the program. I had a perfect program. I had listened to no one because I didn't have to. I knew it all. Why should I listen to anybody? Um, the writing is on the wall. Um, the ability for me to take hold as control was the first mistake I have ever made in my life. And I had been active. I had sponsored people. I had started a meeting. I really knew a lot of the parts of the books by heart. And I don't need your advice anymore. What are you going to tell me I don't know? Nothing. So the inevitable happened. After 7.5 years in this program, listening to no one, observing nothing but my own problems, I went back out and I was going to handle this. No problem. I was going to handle it. I knew enough. And I crawled back in after a very short time out. And I walked into the Saturday morning meeting that I started, table completely full. And next to Anne, who used to be my sponsor and who I drank with at her and Dave at the NCO Club, was sitting up at the end there. And there was an empty chair there. There was the only empty chair in the place. So I sat down. Well, when they went around sharing and they got to me, I bragged about how long I had, blah, 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 blah. And afterward, we stood up to say the Lord's Prayer. And Anne, who came up to my shoulder, looked up at me and she said, "You know, Helen, you're an egotistical ass." And I said, "Well, thanks a lot. What made you think you could say that?" She said, "'Cause it's true. How dare you go out, think you know it all, and come back in and brag? I don't get it." So egotistical ass fit me perfect. When you know. I came back in and stayed in for 32 years, and I know a lot. It says, rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Those of us who do not succeed are people who cannot and will not completely give themselves to this simple program. That was me. That was me. And if I read stuff as I do now, I know a lot of the big book by heart. But if I read that now, even now, I'll say, boy, why didn't I see I didn't do that? Or why did I see I did do that? Or why did I see I believed this? Or what was wrong with me? I'm an alcoholic. I can't drink one drink safely. I can't drink one drink and let any of you know that I'll never take another one because you don't believe me. And I shouldn't believe myself. So, I'm 90 years old, and I got to say this. For those of you who thought this old lady was going to sit here and be depressed about her age and sit there and do nothing but dwell on how horrible it is to be 90, you may as well go have a cup of coffee and, just forget it. Because that's not my intention. That's not why I was willing to come here. I was willing to come here because it was brought to my attention that I might have something that could be useful to young people coming in or to people coming returned. And it's never too old to learn. And I would rather be hung up by my fingernails, if I had any, than I would to take another drink. Because I'm not Helen when I drink. and I don't like the Helen that's there. I prefer this one because, this one, I don't drive anymore, and daggone it, if there aren't people in here that are willing to take me somewhere. I mean, they don't even have a meter in their car. So, I've got it made. I have 4 children, delighted with all of them. I have 4 grandchildren, 4 grandsons, 1 granddaughter, and 1 great-granddaughter. My whole family is attentive, loving, caring, and would absolutely cease for those things to exist if I drank again. My daughter lived in Madison, Wisconsin, and she called me one day and she said, Mom, she said, can you come out and watch the guys? We want to go on vacation. Now, you're all recovering. Would my daughter have asked me to come out and be responsible for their 4 grandsons if I was still drinking, or if I were lying about drinking and they knew better? The answer is very simple. No. They wouldn't even have thought to do that. But I have 4 grandsons that love me, and the one, Jack, I gave him his only spanking that he ever had in his life. He's 26 years old, and he says, out of all the things I remember, Grandma, I remember that you gave me my only spanking. And I said, Jack, do you remember why? And he said, yeah. He said, I was sitting out in the road. And I said, and how many times did I ask you to get out of the road? He said 3. Now you know why I spanked you, Jack. It was either that or scoop you up after a car hit you or a motorcycle hit you. This program is the only place I have ever been in my life that people don't want to know what you do for a living, how much money you make, what church you go to, or anything else. They only are happy to see you when you walk in and you're sober. And believe me, any young people that think that they can ever get control, they are wasting the most wonderful part of their life to try to solve a problem that they cannot do by themselves. There isn't a person that I look around here now, some of you I haven't seen in a long time, but that couldn't say something to me tonight that would make an impression on me and would make me think about it. Not one time. Because I've learned one thing. Open minding and willingness are an essential in me staying sober. Absolutely essential. If I throw those things away and I take that self-control back, I'm in deep doo-doo. Deep doo-doo. Because I will not be able to recover. I truly don't believe I will. The people in this program, believe me, you will not find any place in this world. Any place in the world. And I've been around a little bit of the world. There isn't any men, women, religious background, rich, poor. It doesn't matter. We're all one family. We're all alcoholics. We're all trying to stay sober a day at a time to enjoy the wonderful, wonderful life that exists as a sober person. And I would not want to go back to the period of my life where people hated me. They hated me. They hated to see me and were delighted when I left. If they didn't try to kill me in the meantime. I often say that if I were someone dealing with me, I would probably have tried to knock me cold. But That didn't happen. I don't know why. But I've had all kind of experiences where people have gotten fed up. I've had people come up and start to this or that, and I'll say, I don't want to hear any advice. Oh, that's right. You don't take advice. You know everything, right? I remember now. And then I'm really mad. Then I'm really mad because you know what? They had my number. They had my number. So what am I going to do? Lie to them? And there's one thing you can't do with recovering alcoholics very often. You can't lie to them. They've been there and done that, got a T-shirt, and they know all about it. And they don't need you to give them a bunch of BS because they're going to grasp onto it and want to throw it back to you. And I've had it thrown back to me. And the people that I've met, I would not trade for anything in this world. Anything. I try to keep a positive viewpoint on everything. I try to accept different opinions than my own. I try to accept and understand a way of life that is not my own, but it is sober. If you're sober and you go here and you do that and you take up painting or you take up skiing, or okay. If it's keeping you sober and if you're retaining your self-esteem, which I think is crucial in me staying sober, is how I feel about me. I mean, you know, not egotistical ass. I don't mean that, but I mean a person who sees themselves as a human being that is just trying to help themselves, to help other people, and to believe that a higher power is going to interact and push you along the right way. And that's the way I believe. I've always believed in a higher power. I was involved in church when I was growing up, youth fellowship, and so forth. And I always learned during that time that to be friendly with everybody is one thing. To be nosy is another thing. And people in the program know the difference. They know the difference. There's a person in the program that has a nickname for me. And apparently there are people who think that I should be offended. And they approached this individual, and the individual said, I tell you what, why don't you go ask her? So they came up and they said, blah, blah, blah. I said, wait a minute. I love when he calls me that. That shuts him right up, doesn't it? What are you going to say then? Hi, how's the weather out there? But it's just that you have to look at yourself as a sober alcoholic, as I do, that I'm nothing special. I'm nothing special. I'm a person who believes in this program, who believes in all of you, who believes in all the literature and the books, and there isn't one passage in the big book that you can't find personally applies to you. That's what happened to me. I could look and I, like the rarely have we seen a person fail who had thoroughly followed our path. And later on it says, because people who cannot and will not completely give themselves to this program. And that was me. And if someone were to come up to me at one point and say, Helen, this is what's going to happen to you, I would have said, you gotta be kidding me. The kind of program that I have, the people I sponsored, why are you telling me that? Why don't you go home and bake cookies? I have a lot of little sayings like that. Don't ask me where I got them. I don't have a clue. But anyway, as someone comes up to me to this day and they want to talk arbitrarily about a person, I will say, Why don't you go home and bake cookies? I'm not interested in what you're saying. Now, people might take offense about that, and that is their prerogative. But I've lived a few 24 hours, and I've observed a few sober people who used to be drunk, and I recognize the improvement that people have after they stop drinking. It's not something that I found I could wake up one morning and say, huh, okay, I'm fine. Because I already tried that. I tried it. I wouldn't be sitting here if I hadn't realized, Helen, knock it off. You are not being honest. And the secret to this program is honesty. And not honesty with you, honesty with myself and everyone in this room, honesty with them, not with other people necessarily. Because if I'm not honest with me, how can I be happy in this program? How can I enjoy being sober if I am going to be a bunch of BS all the time and not have anybody who has a good heart in this program? They might come close because people have gotten so that they'll come close and say, knock it off, to me. And I think, how dare them do that? Who do they think they're talking to? Well, they're talking to me, and I'm another drunk. I'm another drunk. No biggie. If the people that come into this program young go back out and come back in, and they live to be 90 years old, the first thing is honesty. The second thing is the people in the program, but in front of those is a higher power. A higher power. I don't have any control over anything, like my nose running right now, which is a big pain. But anyway, when Lisa asked me to speak, I said, okay. I said, she said, well, you're being taped. And I said, Lisa, do they tape everyone who speaks at the meeting? She said, no, just you. And that is what's happening, I assume. Now, I found out later from a gentleman who came up and he said, just for curiosity, you might be interested, that when you share and you're being taped, it may be useful to somebody, A, that's coming back, and B, that is young and coming in the first time. Maybe they'll realize I don't need to go back out if I want to live to be 90 years old. Because I wouldn't be sitting here, folks, if someone hadn't tried to kill me, which they had every right to do, or I didn't kill somebody in an accident or myself, or I didn't have one friend in this whole world that gave a damn, about what I was doing with my life. And I, in turn, wouldn't know how to explain it to myself. There are no dumb people in AA. There are no unsensitive people in AA. And there are no weak people in AA. We are a strong, caring group of people. And we don't ask a thing from anybody at all, especially in the outer world, that we can enjoy fully for absolutely nothing and no responsibility right here in this room. Everyone cares about everyone. You might not like each other. You might not like me, but you care about me. There's a difference. You care about my sobriety. And I care about yours. It doesn't matter what you did for a living. It doesn't matter what friends you had on the outside. It matters what takes place in your life now as a sober person. And that's what I enjoy more than anything. I could be sitting home tonight, growing to the walls and feeling so sorry for myself because I was 90 years old. What good would that do? What good? Depress me? I don't need to be depressed. If I want to be depressed, I'll go out and drink. The big depression comes when you're trying to get sober and explain to somebody why you drank. And why you have to explain it to yourself, which I found hard to do. The 12 steps, when I sponsor people, I always say, you must take the 4th and 5th step. Well, yeah, I said, I don't want to hear how you this or you that. Blah, blah, blah. I am telling you that the 4th and 5th step must be taken in order to be happy sober. You can be happy not drinking if you want to, but it's not the same. It's not the same as the peaceful happiness, joy that you get in other people as well as yourself that you can enjoy to the fullest. And I try to do that. Do I please everybody? Of course not. Who in this room pleases everybody? Especially spouses, you know. You use the wrong soap. You shampoo your hair too much. And you like the wrong things on television. So, what else is new? Nothing's changed that I can remember. I remember when my father came home. I lived in Baltimore. I was raised in Baltimore. My father came home, and he had this 12.5-inch TV. And my mother said, "What is that?" He said, "It's a television." She said, "How much did you pay for that?" He said, "I don't remember." She said, "Bill, that's not true." He was a wonderful, outgoing person, and I have 2 sisters, and I'm the only one like my dad. My dad would talk to a total stranger and feel perfectly at ease, and that's the way I am. My daughter, on the other hand, is very, very shy. And we were at the grocery store one time. I was sober. And I was talking to everybody in the line and everybody. And we got out and we're taking the groceries to the car at Rodney Village Shopping Center. And she stops and she says, "Mom, did you know all those people?" And I said, "No, but I know them now." She said, "Do me a favor. Don't act like that again in front of me. It's embarrassing." And while I'm talking about my daughter, I have to correct something that I've always had in my story since I can remember. I have always said that none of my children ever saw me drunk. That is not true, she tells me. One time I was putting frosting on a cake, sitting at the dining room table, and I could look right through to her. And she was watching me. And I'm going further and further down toward this cake. And she finally says, "Mom, your nose is going to go in the cake." "What do you mean? The nose is going to go in the cake?" "You're drunk, Mom." "Oh, I am." She said, "Yeah, you are." The other time when we were in Germany, Jake and I came home from the NCO club, brought the whole band Christmas Eve, 2:00 in the morning. My kids are up. I'm drunker than a skunk, but I shared that they've never seen me drunk. So, blackouts tells a crucial story. Those blackouts, because I don't want to believe when somebody tells me I was in a blackout. Do you? I mean, who wants to hear? Well, do you remember? You say, I didn't do that. I didn't say that. Yeah, Mom, you did. You did. Well, why did you bring the band home from the NCO club Christmas Eve at 2:00 in the morning, drunk? Is that normal behavior? Yeah. Yeah, I was just happy. Oh, that's good to know. I don't want to see you happy anymore. Do you mind? Um, my children are a vital part of my life. They would not have anything to do with me if I drank again, even at this age, even now, because I change enough where they hate what they see and they hate what they hear. And I've gotten so I hated myself. What in the world possessed me to behave in the way I did? Alcohol. Alcohol. Pure and simple. It ruled me. It ruled me. And I've never been that kind of a person before I drank or after. So you don't necessarily wake up one morning as I did and say, well, I've got this all straightened out now. I know how to behave. Leave me alone. Oh, yeah. I know how to behave. Sure. When I crawled back in here, I learned how an egotistical ass behaves. Ego took my life. Ego made me ignore my disease. Ego made me self-centered where I didn't give a good hoot about one other person. And that included my children. I used to tell them, you know, I'm all you have and I'm not much. And that was hard for me to say because I had been a very good mother, then a bad mother, and then a good mother again. But in the meantime, my children were without me and without their father. Wasn't that selfish? Wasn't that irresponsible for the love that I should have had for my children? I was all they had, and I wasn't much. Same applied for my friends. I was all they had, and I wasn't much. Because it was all about me. All about me. They called me on the phone and they wanted to really share with me something that was causing them pain. Well, wait till they get finished and me start. You know, I'll fill that right up so that I will be able to ignore what they just told me. It's easy to come to meetings if you want to and pretend that everything's cool if you want to. I did. I thought I was playing a great game. I thought I was winning. I thought I was really handing this stuff to you all, and you were just lapping it up. Not true. Not true. Because people that are recovering from alcoholism, as we are, hopefully every single day today, that's all we have is today, should realize that without each other, without a higher power, without something more important than our own wants and needs, I feel certain that as an alcoholic, I could very easily wake up tomorrow with the same nasty, unreasonable, uncaring thoughts that I had when I drank again. There for a while, I thought, well, I only drink beer. Yeah, but how about 12 beers? Oh, well, if you like beer, you can drink 12 beers. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with it? You get arrested for drunk driving, you get abusive to your friends, you get barred from places, and you get misunderstood. What are they talking about? They misunderstand me. I'm as obvious as a paint on a door. One thing I learned early on, the BS can just run wild. And it did with me. And I thought I was fooling everybody. And I thought I was fooling myself. This disease is the most baffling, unhelped thing that's ever been in my life. And without you all, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. I wouldn't be sitting here. I wouldn't have told Lisa that I would do this. I wouldn't have gone to Chestertown because I was asked to speak there if I hadn't have really felt that everybody in the room was interested in what I had to say. And if I ever felt that it wasn't true, I probably wouldn't be sitting here anymore. Because to bore a sober alcoholic like me, go home and bake cookies. That's my whole philosophy. It doesn't take much to pick up the phone and call. How much effort does that take? Get out of myself and call somebody that I haven't heard from or seen in a while. Be concerned about their well-being instead of what I feel, what I'm doing. Because really, the bottom line is they are all the things that caused me to drink. Every single one of them. That self-centered, what's in it for me attitude was number one. If you had my problems, if you were brokenhearted, if you had, you'd drink too. And folks, I believe that with every fiber of my body, that I would never have become an alcoholic if I hadn't had all these problems that no one else has ever had. And it's just mind-boggling when you think of the thoughts that went through my head that caused me to decide, out of my own free will, that I could drink. That I would be fine. And lo and behold, to wake up one morning and say, whoa, you know what, Helen? That is not true. You have about as much control as diarrhea. And I learned the hard way about feelings that had absolutely no bearing whatsoever on my sobriety. We're all going to have feelings. We're all going to have natural reactions to things in our life. But it need not be tried to control by drinking. Because I know that drinking is not going to solve a thing. What it's going to do is it's going to make people lose confidence in me, lose confidence in the ability for maybe I don't need to stay sober. Look at Helen, blah, blah, blah. And the important thing is when I went back out, I had to come back. I had to come back and let people know that self-will is going to be a disaster if ever a recovering alcoholic decides that that's the answer. It's not. It's not. And it never will be. And I would not be sitting here right now, believe me, if it hadn't have been for the devotion, the love, and the caring that I have for all of you and for this program. And whenever I'm in any kind of emotional pain, my higher power is there to give me assistance and to even take over when I can't. If you don't believe in a higher power, oh well. If you want a power of your choice, have at it, as long as it works for you. As long as you can walk through those doors at meetings, sit, learn just a tiny bit of something that someone says, it's been worthwhile. It's been worthwhile. It has not been a waste of time. And as time goes on in life, I've learned that there is never a minute that I attend an AA meeting in the last many, many years that I haven't walked out with something, some thought, some allegiance, some attention to something that I probably would never have done had it not been for a meeting. And a lot of times, those remarks come from a person who you would not think was able to produce that kind of a reaction to anything that they're feeling. But age doesn't matter. Religion doesn't matter. Education doesn't matter. Friendships doesn't matter. Family doesn't matter. What matters is how we feel about ourselves. That is not conceit. That is not conceit. That is caring enough about us as human beings that we do not want to live like we used to live. It's too painful. It's too time-consuming. I had to explain my behavior. I had to explain why I said this. It is unnecessary to do that. We all have different opinions. Does that make everybody wrong and me right? No. You're entitled to your opinion. Just don't go out and drink because you have that opinion. Don't drink because you can make an excuse for that opinion. I did all that. And it's too painful to even think about. I certainly wouldn't. When I share, a lot of times I'll say, I'm going to close with this. I'm not going to close tonight because I promised Lisa I'd talk. But I say, can you picture anything worse than a 90-year-old woman sitting on a bar stool, starting a fight with the next door person sitting next to you, getting angry and knocking them on the floor, to which you get barred, get out of here. Now, picture that. Can you have a nightmare like that? I can't believe it. I grew up in Baltimore. I went to the park every day. I had friends. I never expected them to go out of their way and make me happy 24 hours a day. And I know they didn't expect it from me. But what I did get was the caring feeling that when you walked in their presence, they really were glad to see you. And you know what? That's how I feel when I come to an AA meeting. I really do. Now, there may be people in there that are great actors, and they may say, oh my God, here she comes. You know, if they do feel that way, they certainly don't display it to me. And that's good. That's good. It brings the joy back and it keeps the joy here. And if someone were to come up to me tonight and say, you know what, the joy that you feel, I would like to be capable of taking it. I would say, well, I'll tell you what, why don't you try? And we'll see how that goes. I personally think it's going to be a waste of time, but you have at it. I have never, ever experienced anything any worse than not having any license to drive. In this program, it is absolutely incredible. I have so many people offering to take me to meetings that I have to get some kind of a schedule person. I guess I'm going to have to hire them because I can't keep track. Sometimes somebody will call and they'll say, Helen, do you have a ride? And I'll say, you know, I think so-and-so is going to pick, but I'm not sure of that. I think to myself, you're old, Helen. What do they expect from you? You can't keep this record of everybody's going and coming concerning your getting to meeting. But they do. They want to know. And if I don't show up at a couple meetings in a row, oh boy, the phone rings. And the phone rings. And the first thing they say to me is, I hope you're okay. And I'll say, I'm fine. Yeah, well, you sound fine. I'm glad I called and blah, blah, blah. It is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. When I was in Baltimore, I went to a modeling school. And there was a woman there who ran Walters Academy, and her name was Mrs. Walters, as you might guess. And she used to line us up in the morning. And then she'd walk by, and she'd stop, and she'd say, this is wrong, that's wrong, so on. She'd get to me, Miss Worthman, do you have a girdle on? And I say, no, I only weigh 126 pounds. Why do I need a girdle? She said, you have more flesh down there than you have up there, don't you? I said, yes. She said, you wouldn't go without a bra, would you? And I said, I don't know, would you? She didn't like me being in her class after that. But I graduated anyway. No one takes me serious when I'm not serious, and that's good. That's really good. There's a gal in the program who is as neat as a pin. Every hair in place, all the time. A few months ago, I went up and I said, you know, you got to do something with your appearance. Your hair's a mess. And what is that with that jewelry and those colored fingernails? Please, the next time I see you, I want some changes. She started laughing. She laughed so hard. I said, oh, I'm sorry. She said, you don't have to apologize. I know you're not serious. But people take me for exactly what they see. They can believe me when I give advice if they want to. They can just wash it down as if they don't want to believe it. And that's their prerogative. But, ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you right now, I know more about the behavior and the feelings of human beings than I have felt since I was growing up in Baltimore at the age of 10, 11, 12, and 13. And it's all because I have kept an open mind. I am concerned. I sponsored this young lady. She was a victim of murder. And I said, have you done the fourth and fifth step? Well, I've written it down, but I said, okay, I'll tell you what, after today's meeting, or after tomorrow's meeting, which was a Thursday, I said, you're coming to my house and you're going to do the fourth and fifth step. And she came, and we did as much as we could possibly do. And she stood up and she got to my door and she looked over at me and she said, I feel wonderful. I feel wonderful. And I trust you, she pointed at me. This was on a Thursday. She was killed on a Saturday. Her name was Jeannie. You all, some of you may know her, may have known her. But that's how important it was for her to do the fourth and fifth step. She had tried before. She had reached almost a year, but she had never completed those 2 steps. So for any of you that are sponsoring people and they hem and haw about doing the fourth and fifth step, it's too painful, it takes too long, I don't have time. Don't buy any of that. What I always say is, hold it. I tried all that. It got me to come back and get drunk, so I don't know what it's going to do for you if you don't listen. I'm sponsoring a young lady right now. Same thing. Put it off. I'm writing down, I can't find where. You wrote it down and you can't find where it is. Well, let's start over again. Only you're going to come to my house to do it. And if you have to come 5 or 6 times, that's fine with me. Or if you're smart, you'll get it done and you'll be prepared when you come here. Up to you. I got all the time in the world. I might live to be 120. I'm working on it. I had two grandparents, my father's mother and my mother's mother. My father's mother lived to be 94. She drove till she was 92. She drove when she was crazy when she was 72. I've been in the car with her. I said, Grandma, you're killing me sitting in a car with you. They both died of shingles. Shingles. So I go to the doctor and I said, I need to get some shingle shots. I said, I'm a recovering alcoholic. I want to know if there's any problem with these shots. No. But why do you want shingle shots? I said, do people actually come into a doctor and request shingle shots if they don't need shingle shots? I had 2 grandparents, and both of them died, and I want the shingle shots. I get them. Because if I'm going to die of something, I don't want it to be shingles. Let's have something real here. It's important while you're sober, all of you, to remember that we only have today. That I know that at the end of the day, when I say my prayers, I have a picture in my head of exactly who is here, who is there, who is this, my name, all this. I can do it. I could do it right now sitting in front of you, but I won't. Because you all say, that's me, that's me, that's me. Some of the people that I pray for, I have to realize aren't here anymore. And it's hard for me to get their name out of my head. This life is absolutely unbelievable. The caring that we have for each other. When I was drinking, I couldn't care less about you. So you were sick last week? Oh, well. So your son had an automobile? So what? I didn't care. You know why? Because it was important for me to care about that drink that's going to soothe my pain, that's going to make my bad thoughts go away. And it did for a long time. It did. But in the meantime, really? You're kidding me. You're kidding me. 9:02. Listen, it has been a pleasure. I am glad that Lisa asked me to speak. I am never for a loss of words. I am sitting here right now, honest to God, I'm not one bit frightened, upset, or anything else. I'm perfectly relaxed as if I was watching something on TV. Preferably not a excuse me. Again. Lisa, thank you, honey. I called Lisa and she said, "Oh, I saw your name on my, you're coming, aren't you?" I said, oh yeah, I wouldn't wait till this late to call. I love seeing y'all. There are people here that I haven't seen in a while. And God bless you. Stay sober, enjoy life, and get out of yourself once in a while to enjoy other people. Thank you very much.